Today is
and Donald Trump is here. Still. Anyway, it's amazing how time flies. Soon the first presidential contest will take place, and I, for one, cannot wait to see who the Koch brothers pick. It's exciting. Marco Rubio, Rand Paul, Ted Cruz, Jeb Bush, Scott Walker. Who will finally get that red rose?
And now it's the Koch brothers versus Donald Trump, the fight everyone's been waiting for. The Koch brothers, who are at least 40 times richer than Donald Trump, have no use for him as a presidential candidate. The Koch brothers have, in effect, declared him one of the obvious losers in the presidential primary by not inviting him to their Republican candidate roundup this weekend, where the Koch brothers and other real billionaires will listen to the candidates who will be, in effect, auditioning for the massive campaign contributions that the Koch brothers and their other rich invited guests can provide to the campaigns. Joining us now, Jeremy Peters, political reporter for the New York Times. He's also an MSNBC political analyst, and Ken Vogel, chief investigative reporter for Politico. Ken, it's a very interesting list of who's in and who's out at the Koch brothers' big show. But Donald Trump is definitely out. It seems like the Koch brothers would like to get past the Trump phase of this campaign as fast as possible.
Yeah, that's right. And what's interesting here, Lawrence, is that in some ways being snubbed by the Koch brothers plays right into Donald Trump's messaging. That is, that he is not beholden to big donors, unlike his rivals, and particularly Jeb Bush, who he's hit over and over again for his fundraising ability and for raising more than $100 million into super PACs from very wealthy donors. But this is about more than the money. The Koch brothers control really among the most powerful, if not the most powerful, political apparatuses on the right, and what they are depriving Donald Trump is not just the potential to raise big super PAC contributions from their wealthy donors, but rather the data that they have assembled and the analytics through this private company, i360, that's controlled by the Koch brothers network, as well as the ability to speak to some of these grassroots gatherings put on by groups in the Koch's network. Donald Trump and his campaign have actually asked to be included both in the I-360 data and in some of these grassroots gatherings, and been told no. And that's something that's more valuable in some ways than money.
Yeah, and Donald responded to the snub by the Kochs today in a tweet. He said, "I really like the Koch brothers, but I don't want their money or anything else from them cannot influence Trump." It turns out, Jeremy, we just heard he does want something else for him, or at least his campaign does, whether they've told Donald that or not. But the Koch brothers can bury Donald Trump in negative advertising if it comes to that. If he has to be taken out with negative advertising, they can outspend him like he's never seen.
I don't think the Koch brothers are the only ones who are capable or willing and eager to do that. But it's certainly, you don't need the Koch brothers to do that. I think Donald Trump, in a lot of ways, does that himself with his own words. I do think that, yeah, as we look at the impact that the Koch brothers are going to have on this election, one of their lasting legacies is going to be this shadow party that they have assembled. As Ken was talking about, they have a very extensive network of not just volunteers but paid staffers in a lot of these early primary states, a lot of big swing states like Florida. And that's something that I think we're going to be talking about long after we finish talking about Donald Trump.
And Ken, it looks like the Koch brothers' favorite is Scott Walker. How does that affect the others when they go out there knowing that the Koch brothers already have a favorite?
Well, it certainly does seem that way, but I think Marco Rubio in particular has found himself gaining some traction in that network. And frankly, among large donors really across the conservative political landscape, he's been so assiduous in his courtship of these big donors. He went out to the Koch brothers' last seminar in January and really put on a show, impressed a lot of the donors there, and incidentally impressed them in a way that Rand Paul, who in some ways would seem to be very well suited to gaining support from that network, the libertarian sort of philosophy undergirding his brand of republicanism does seem to be one that dovetails rather nicely with the Koch brothers. But he was rather unimpressive out there, and a lot of donors felt he was not only like unprepared, but additionally gave answers that suggested that he wasn't as closely aligned with them. And so Marco Rubio, I think, surprised a lot of people and has the potential to continue to gain traction this coming weekend out there in Southern California.
All right.